विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे नमस्ते श्री शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते
नमो भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम
Om
नमो
Namo
भगवते
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.55 Esa Prakriti Sangena
ऐसा प्रकृति
Prakriti
संगेन
Sangena
Purusasya Viparyaha
पुरुषस्य
Purusha
Parayaya
Viparaya
Asit Sa Evana Chirad
आसित
Asit
Asitsa Evana Chirad
Isa Sangad Viliyate.
ईशा
Isha
संगा
Sanga
Sangha Viliyate.
Liyate.
Would you like to read, please?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, please. Prabhu.
Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada Ji ki Jai.
Jai.
Translation. Since the living entity is associated with the material nature, he is in an awkward position. But if in the human form of life he's taught how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, this position can be overcome. Purport. The word Prakriti means the material nature, and Purusha may also refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one wants to continue his association with Prakriti, the female energy of Krishna, and be separated from Krishna by the illusion that he is able to enjoy Prakriti, he must continue in a conditional life. If he changes his consciousness, however, and associates with the Supreme Original Person, Purusham Shashvatam, or with his devotees, he can get out of the entanglement of material nature. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 4.9, Janma Karam Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvata. One can simply understand the Supreme Person Krishna in terms of his form, name, activities, and pastimes. This will keep one away in the association of Krishna. Tyakatva deham punarjanma neti mam eti. So Arjuna, thus after giving up his gross material body, one accepts not another gross body but a spiritual body in which to return home back to Godhead. Thus one ends the turbulation caused by his association with the material energy. In summary, the living entity is an eternal servant of the God, but he comes into the material world and is bound by the material conditions because of his desire to lord it over matter. Liberation means giving up this false consciousness and reviving one's original service to the Lord. This return to one's original life is called mukti, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Muktir hitvan yatha rupam swarupena vyavastiti. Thank you, Ji. I think I should take a pause then discussing. Prabhuji, you can discuss because I haven't read the previous 4 verses. I won't be able to link it together.
Hare Krishna. So since the living entity is associated with material nature, so the Yamadutas are talking still to Vishnu Dutas, and they are telling, in reply to the question as to how should a person live and what is said in the Shastras. So the Yamadutas are explaining the Shastras and how a human person is bound by the rules and regulations given in the Vedas and Shastras, and if he deviates from that, then he is born to a life of sin. And the earlier few verses again we've seen that a person once born will act And if one acts as per one's material desires, then one is going to land up in more and more entanglement and finally land up punishing by Yamaraj. So in this particular verse, since the living entity is associated with material nature, he is in an awkward position. Awkward because he is subjected to the tribulations of material nature, and the only way to get out of it is how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotees. Then this position can be overcome. Here, so the word Prakriti refers to material nature, and Purusha may also refer to Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if one wants to continue association with Prakriti, then he is an illusion. So he is separated from Krishna with illusion. And he must continue this conditional life. So here again, very important, Prabhupada says, if he changes his consciousness, so from material consciousness, if he moves to Krishna consciousness and associates with the Supreme Original Person, Purusham Shashvatam, he can get out of entanglement of material nature. Here Prabhupada quotes the verse from Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Evam Yo Veti Tattvataha. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So, so Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already, this is explained in the first few verses of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And one who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is liberated from material bondage. And he returns to a kingdom of God when quitting this material body. Thus, once one tribulation when because of association with material body. The living entity is an eternal servant of God, but he comes to this material world and is bound by material conditions because of his desire to lord it over material nature. So one has this streak of independence and one has desires which cause one to lord over material nature, which is why one is bound in this material world and entangled birth after birth. Liberation means giving up this false consciousness. So the consciousness that we, I, me, mine, my family, my material possessions, and the connection and knots of this entanglement are very, very, very hard, and it's very difficult to unentangle it. The only way to do that is by surrendering to our Lord and continuously chanting His names and glories. And only then this false consciousness can be slowly cut away, knot by knot. And maybe then, as the knots keep getting cut, one feels lighter because you're no longer burdened by all of this material baggage that we carry on our back. And this, we revive one's original service to the Lord. This return to one's original life is called mukti. So, I think in multiple purports, Prabhupada writes that mukti or liberation doesn't mean that one has to go back to Golok. It is also that liberated people, even in this material world, having given up all bondage with the material things and see everything spiritual and in service of the Lord, are situated in a liberated platform. And this Prabhupada says is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Muktir hitva yata rupam swarupena vyavasthati. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you. We go next.
I think Prabhuji is wrong.
So he has come.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Sorry,
Hare
I was
Krishna.
yeah. So yeah, anyone has any questions, comments, or anything? Then maybe we continue with the next verse.
56 should tell.
Ayam hi Shruta Sampanna
I am
Yes.
Hishita Sampanna.
Sampanna.
Shruta Sampanna.
Sheela Vritta Gunalaya
Sheel
Shila
Shila
Vritta Gunalaya.
Gunalaya.
Dhrit Vrato Mridurdanta
Dhrat
Dhritta
Vartu
Vrato
Vrito
Mridurdanta.
Vidur Shanta.
Satyavan Mantravit Chuchi
Satyavam
Satyavan
Satyavan
Mantravit Shuchi.
Vichuchi.
Gurvagnya Atithi Vriddhanam
Guru
Guru Agni
Agnya
Atithi
Tithi
Vridhanam.
Vidhanam
Shrushrushur Anahankrata
Shushrushur
Shrushur
Anaham Krita.
Krita
Sarvabhuta Suhrata Sadhur
Sarvabhuta
Sarvabhuta
Vritta
Suvrata
Sadhur.
Bitvag Anasuyaka
Mitva.
Mitavag
Anusuyaka.
Anusuyaka.
Married to
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Vandana Pranam. Translation purport by Sripad Ki Jai. Translation. In the beginning, this Brahman named Ajamil situated all the Vedic literature. He was a reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities. Firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions. He was very mild and gentle, and he kept his mind and senses under control. Furthermore, he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras, and he was also very pure. Ajamil was very respectful to his spiritual master, the fire god, guests, and the elderly members of his household. Indeed, he was free from false prestige. He was upright, benevolent to all living entities, and well behaved. He would never speak nonsense on enemy or envy anyone. Purport. The order carrier of Yamduta. Yamraj, the Yamdutas are explaining the factual position of piety and impiety and how a living entity is entangled in each material world. Describing the history of Ajamil's life. The Yamduta relate that in the beginning he was learned scholar of the Vedic literature, was well behaved, neat and clean, and very kind to everyone. In fact, he had all good qualities. In other words, he was like a perfect Brahmin. Brahmin is expected to be perfectly pious, to follow all the regulative principles, and to have all good qualities. Symptoms of piety are explained in this verse. The Virga Acharya comment that Dhartavarta means Dhartavatan Sthir Sango Te Atmaka Brahmacharya Rupam. In other words, Ajamil followed rules and regulations of the celibacy as a perfect brahmachari and was very soft-hearted, truthful, clean, and pure. How he fell down, despite of all these qualities, and thus came to be threatened with punishment by Yamraj, will be described in the following verses. Hare Krishna Bhagavatam Patra.
Hare Krishna. So, very interesting verse. See, dhyayato vishayana pumsha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama. Very interesting point here, this one. Now, you see the qualities of Ajamil here. Now, this is actually, I would say, this is one of the most interesting pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam, the most relatable pastime, actually, if we see. It almost directly touches our lives. Here we see Ajamil was a reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities. Firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions, he was very mild and gentle, and he kept his mind and senses under control. Furthermore, he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras, and he was also very pure. Ajamil was very respectful to his spiritual master, the fire god, guests, and the elderly members of the household. Indeed, he was free from false prestige. He was upright, benevolent to all living entities, and well behaved. He would never speak nonsense or envy anyone. Now, you see, now let us, the whole list is given here. Now, let us see how many of these qualities are actually in us. in this age of Kali, as a general rule, I think we just have like maybe one or two of these qualities. Good reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities. I mean, we hardly have, like, we haven't even learned anything. When we say good qualities, we're meaning all the Vedic qualities. We are very degraded. We don't even know what are the rules of proper hygiene. We don't know what rules for proper cleanliness. So there are so many things that we are lacking in. So certainly, and we don't know what are the rules of proper speech, what are the proper social etiquettes according to Vedic rules and regulations. So all these things, all these things we don't know. And not only that, you see, he knew how to chant the Vedic mantras. And we don't even know how to recite Srimad Bhagavad Gita properly. So you see, what is our position as compared to the position of Ajamil? And still Ajamil fell down. So what do we understand from this? That this material world is a very dangerous place. Padam padam yat vipadam. At every step there is danger. And no one really knows. No one really knows what is going to happen at the next moment. Like Srila Prabhupada is explaining in one of his lectures, he's saying, don't trust any promises for the future. You don't know what is going to happen next moment. So do not trust any promises that you might have about the future. Okay, this will be good, that will be good. My horoscope says this and that. Yes, all that may be there. But we don't know how our present karma has changed our past already. So what was our prarabdha and what is happening now? All these we do not know. At every moment, our destiny is changing. So it's a very dangerous situation in which we live. So knowingly, unknowingly, in this age of Kali, we are committing so many sins. So we should be very, very careful. So you can imagine how much more dangerous our position is. And from there, we see in the next verse, the fall down of Ajamil is going to be described. So you can see how dangerous it is. See, now these are Yamadutas explaining the position of. So you can see Yamadutas have come here to punish him. So you can imagine that they are enumerating his good qualities. So that means all these good qualities mean for nothing if we have committed sinful activities. That means we are sinful. You see, one may be a very upright character and one may have, very many good qualities. But if someone mistakenly or otherwise commits a crime, law is not going to forgive him. Law is going to be equally harsh. Yes, the punishment may be reduced in lieu of the good qualities the person has or the good character he has exhibited, but that will not absolve him of his sins. So we need to be extremely careful. So we can see, in other words, Sri Veera Raghav Acharya comments that Dhrita Vrata means Dhritam Vratam Stri Sangha Rahityatmaka Brahmacharya Rupam. In other words, Ajamil followed the rules and regulations of celibacy as a perfect brahmachari and was very soft-hearted, truthful, clean, and pure. How he fell down in spite of all these qualities and thus became to be threatened with punishment by Yamaraj will be described in the following verses. So you can see that we should be extremely careful. We should not mess around with the rules and regulations of the scriptures. We should not take anything for granted. We should not think, okay, now we are devotees, we are Hare Krishnas, nothing is going to happen. Certainly, if he's a Brahmin, if Ajamil is a Brahmin, he worshipped the Lord. And that's how he came to call his son Narayan. So certainly we can understand that Ajamil must have worshipped the Supreme Lord also. With all these qualities, and this was in a past age. Today we can imagine how dangerous our situation is. Actually, we are sustained only by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. If his mercy is gone, we are finished. So we should take this process of bhakti very seriously and put in our utmost effort. We should not be lacking in any of our effort at all in this process. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
Hare Krishna, Guruji. I do have a question.
Yeah, please.
Here it says Ajamil is very respectful to his spiritual master, the fire god, guests, the elderly members of his household. So we say we should always associate with devotees. So Ajamil, if he was very respectful to his spiritual master, Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, whoever you associate with, when we share, this is where we are or this is how I'm feeling, Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru right away says or helps, you're going on the right track, or okay, back off, you're not going on the right track. There is warning. In this case, how come he went to such an extent without anything? Or even if, say, for example, he was not associating with his spiritual master, even says Krishna from within or without helps. So, as a Chaitya Guru, he must have been given some gut feeling that, I'm going on a wrong track now. He still went to such an extent.
See, that's the whole point. This material energy is very difficult.
Dangerous.
Daivi Shugurnamayi Mamaya Duratyaya. So this material energy of the Lord is very, very difficult to overcome. Now we're going to see how actually he fell down. But the most important factor is, actually this is a very interesting point. Yesterday I was discussing with a brahmachari godbrother of mine. We were having a conversation. So we were discussing about the dangerous position of boys in our society and how we need to protect them. So he said something very interesting. He said, Prabhu, we cannot protect anyone. And people don't fall down because Maya is affecting them. They fall down because they themselves have that weakness. Maya is not coming to chase anyone. People themselves are chasing Maya. Fall down occurs because one has some sinful tendency in one's own heart. And Maya simply facilitates it. Maya will simply facilitate. So, yes, so we have to be very particular, very cautious.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very true.
Yes.
Hare
Any other
Krishna ji.
questions? Hare Krishna.
Again, Prabhu, basically, he is a very following a Vedic life. And we have discussed many times in our class that today's world is very difficult to follow this Vedic life. And living in our society, it's difficult to follow to a T. But having, once we follow the principles given by Prabhupada in terms of chanting, reading his books, doing maximum association that we can. But beyond that, is it important that we take up some more purification as given in the scriptures, or that is something that will be beyond our scope or it's like too difficult to follow?
Yes, that's actually, I would say that's really the question of the year, or maybe even the question of a lifetime. So, so padam padam yat viptam. Every step is full of danger. So how do we protect ourselves? We protect ourselves by, by taking Krishna's shelter at all times. So the answer to this question is actually not given by me, but Srila Prabhupada himself. So, he says 24 hours, think of Krishna. And how do we do that? We do that by molding our lives completely in the service of Krishna. See, the problem that we face is, in this lifetime, we have so many engagements, which we think are, moral engagements, which are, very pious engagements, which are according to dharma, like their duties. But actually, that is all Maya. Dharma swanishtita pumsham vishvaksena kathasuya. So notpadayed yadi ratim shram evahi kevalam. So all our occupational duties are only meant to remind us of Krishna. If these occupational duties are leading us away from Krishna, then they are completely Maya. One may think, oh, my parents are old, I have to take care of them. My children depend on me, I need to take care of them. And then I'm not able to think of Krishna. Or, for example, many times it happens is that, oh, my child has to do such and such activity. My child wants to play with me. I cannot attend Bhagavatam or something. That is Maya. For example, if we want to see an ideal relationship between a parent and a child, we should see Gaur Mohan Dey and Srila Prabhupada. So, Gaur Mohan Dey actually indulged Srila Prabhupada very much. But all the time, his consciousness was to make Prabhupada a pure devotee. In fact, there's a very interesting point here. Srila Prabhupada mentions somewhere in the 70s, when Prabhupada was about to leave this world himself, he once said that, my father never spoke harsh with me. He never chastised me.
Hmm.
And then Prabhupada became very quiet, very grave, and then he said, perhaps he already knew. So, you see, so Gaur Mohan Dey was also not an ordinary father, and Srila Prabhupada was
Hmm.
certainly not an ordinary son. But we can see that in this case, the parent-child relationship was not a hindrance, because actually the child was also a pure devotee and the father was also a pure devotee. But for the rest of us, it's generally Maya only.
Hmm.
Sometimes this Maya can even come in the form of devotional service. Maya will act through devotees also. Devotees giving up hearing of Bhagavatam, devotees giving up chanting properly just to do seva. That is
Hmm.
Maya. That is Maya. So Maya it's not necessary that I have some bad intention and then only Maya will act on me. I may have good intentions and Maya may still be acting on me. So Dvaite Bhadra Bhadra Jnana Sab Manodharma. So in this material world, when I think of something good or something bad, that's all illusion. That's just in my mind. So what is good or what is bad must be told by the spiritual master. Then we are safe, then we are transcendental. So all dharma sanishthita pumsha, all the prescribed duties that we are following, we should see whether they are purifying us or whether they are contaminating us more. In this way we'll be saved. And to be Krishna conscious 24 hours, like we discussed on Saturday also, we have to contemplate about Krishna consciousness 24 hours. So maybe this Saturday we can have a special session and then we can take this topic still further, maybe one whole session on this topic alone. But for the moment, just to put it very briefly, what I would say is that, Prabhu, make Krishna the objective of your life. That, like I may be a very busy man, I may have many material duties, but how do I find a way to become Krishna conscious? How do I find a way to only think of Krishna all the time? Think like that.
So,
Also think, what service can I do? Can I study the scriptures? How do I study the scriptures properly? Read a verse and then meditate on its meaning. Usually Bhagavatam and Gita verses are very simple. So read on it and think very deeply. Try to think from different perspectives. And when you are not able to chant or when you're not reading, you can contemplate like this. Our mind anyway thinks of so many things. Our mind thinks of our family, our village, our country, our business, and so many things. So we can think of Krishna all the time like this. Every activity, every action that you're doing, you can try to link it to Bhagavad Gita and see whether this is transcendental or this is material. How do I make it transcendental? Contemplate like this.
I got it. I think there are multiple faults that are still present. And so, as we become more conscious of it, when we are like too steeped in material life, then we are not even conscious that we are doing something wrong. But as we get more conscious that, yes, I'm doing something wrong, how can I slowly stop it? And then we become more mindful of what we're doing. So I get what you're saying. So,
Absolutely. That's the best understanding. Yes. So anyone else has any questions or comments?
There was a lecture, Prabhuji, from Keshavan Prabhuji, and he was saying, don't make your baggage too heavy that you are unable to carry. So this seems very true in our case, that the baggage is so heavy, regardless of what the mind says or the desire says, the baggage is so heavy that it keeps pulling us back again and again.
Yes.
And the baggage
So
is now so heavy that either by desire, by attachment, or by thinking, oh, this is now morally correct, we don't leave the baggage.
So that is something we have to be very careful of.
Mhm.
That this baggage is in the form of duties, dharma swanishthita
Yes.
pumsha. our
Mhm.
duties.
Mhm.
So the next verse also clears it, Dharmasya apavargasya nartho adhaya kalpate. So dharmasya apavargasya, dharma is meant to liberate us from material nature, not to bind us.
Mhm.
Now I'm having my second child, third child, now I'm working for Hindu community, this and that, all this nonsense.
Mhm.
Dharma means we should try to purify ourselves as soon as possible. In Kali Yuga, we have very short lives.
Even if Prabhuji, no one is thinking, say for example, we are not like we have tried to cut down a lot when it comes to the material duties. Yet
Hmm.
there are material duties that still need to be fulfilled. That takes away a lot of time.
So try to minimize those. Try
पर
to minimize.
खत्म तो नहीं ना होती.
So, like, for example, there are so many duties which are actually unnecessary.
Unnecessary. True.
I'll tell you, like today, in today's age, we'll think of ourselves. We are like middle-aged people. In our childhood, our parents were not spending time on our activities.
Mhm.
Today, we take our children for cricket, for hockey, for football, and this and that. Why?
Yes.
The child can go himself. They are not some
Mhm.
babies.
Mhm.
Why the child can't travel himself? Why the child
Yep.
can't play? Just why a parent needs to go with the child to supervise the child's play?
Mhm.
So you see, these kind of activities are actually eating up our time, and we are not noticing really.
Hmm.
I mean, if a
Very
child is playing cricket, for example, I mean, cricket is never not played over half an hour. It's usually a 2 to 3 hour
It's
game.
a long time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we just go and we watch. What are we watching, really? That's
That's
just
sheer
a
waste
waste
of
of
time.
time. Yeah.
True.
So if child has to study, the child will study. Like why we need to supervise? There are teachers for children. Why are we paying schools? Why are we paying teachers? The child can learn on himself. I know, like there are devotees who waste a lot of time in their children's education. I know one devotee who would chase around all the teachers for his child's education. My child, he should become a doctor or engineer and he should study mathematics and physics and chemistry. So that's not a parent's job, really. I mean, you have chosen a trustworthy teacher, now trust the teacher. Let him do the job. Because your job is to focus on Krishna. Gurukul
एक एक बात पूछनी है प्रभु जी, अगर हम फॉर एग्जांपल we are doing sorry
प्रोग्राम रोज बघायचे तो स्टार्टलाच करायचे. अच्छा 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 म्हणून प्रोग्राम बघून 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 मला काहीच माहित नाही कृष्ण आणि इतकं माहित नव्हतं इतकं 20 years होते.
so say for example we are doing something and that is taking time, and then in your mind you are regretting that how much of time is going, and that time should have been somewhere else. I wanted to do something else, but I'm doing something else, and that actually builds up an anxiety. That builds up anxiety or frustration or whatever you want to call it, and that is your day to day every day. Then how do you take that? Like, that's not a happy position, that's actually a frustrating position.
Yes, it is. So that kind of a regret is good, but you should act on it.
Yes.
If a child sits down and regrets that he's playing games instead of studying, that's a good, healthy regret. But then if he just simply regrets and does nothing, then that is of no use.
Very true.
So we should, because that's this way the children are also becoming addicted to Maya. Now, what is the use? Like a child may become an expert hockey player, swimmer, or whatever. What purpose it serves? What in the seventh canto, what is Prahlad Maharaj saying? That at such an early age, even at an early age, we have already wasted so much of time. At every moment, these impressions are getting into our mind. And we are polluting ourselves. These are polluting impressions. So instead of polluting ourselves further, we should be purifying our consciousness. That purification will come when we think of Krishna. So children also need to be engaged in bhakti actually properly. We are like, we're going to see this actually. The next verse is that topic only. See, Ajamil fell into a sinful condition because he associated, even though that was a mental association in the beginning. And here we are sending our children to spend all their days with prostitutes and their consorts, actually. I mean, that's what these mundane children are really. I mean, we may have grown up in different times, but in today's times, by 5th or 6th, by the age of 8 or 9 itself, children are very much aware of gender differences. They are very much sexually aware.
Mhm.
So, I mean, at least in Finland, I know it's a very degraded
Yes.
situation.
Mhm.
So we are actually sending our children to spend time with these kind of degraded souls. So we are being an irresponsible parent, really. If a
Very true.
child turns out to be an atheist, then then that's partly our responsibility also.
Mhm.
Because as a mother, as a father, as a teacher, as a king, or as a demigod, it's our duty to ensure that our dependents become pure devotees. It's a karma bandhan. So a guru should never compromise when he speaks. No matter what position he is, guru, shiksha guru, diksha guru, he should never compromise. Because if he compromises philosophy, considering the mood of the disciples, then he will become implicated in the sin.
Mhm.
Right?
Seems like a vicious circle जो खत्म नहीं होता. Like you don't want to spend too much time with the child or whoever. Like unnecessary time. I'm not just saying time, unnecessary time. And at the same time, you do want to make sure they are going on the right track. So you can't do that without spending. It's a vicious circle. It's very hard to determine what is the right balance. Like you can't just teach them anything without spending time. And when you do spend time, you are taking away your own time.
Yeah, so you should try to give them Krishna consciousness.
Mhm.
I mean, if you spend time with the child, actually that is violence. Because the child is going to suffer. When you die, the child will suffer.
Yes. No, I mean spending time to give Krishna consciousness.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. That's transcendental.
Oh.
But we should be intelligent with that. If the child is obviously an atheist, then spending more time is not going to help.
Mm.
But if the child shows at least some preference for Krishna consciousness, then we should show him the ideal way.
ठीक है जी. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yes, so any other questions or comments? Let me stop here today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Then
Hare
pranam.
Hare Krishna, pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam ji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Krishna Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.